bad way to spend an afternoon, right? I'm Dave Carter. I'm a host on Turner Classic Movies, and I have, yeah, right? Thank you. What's up, David? I have my favorite movie critic, David Ehrlich from IndieWire, in the house. I know you're a little iffy on this movie, right? Iffy, right? Yeah. Anyway, great to see you all. I have the absolute pleasure of bringing out the star and producer of Marty Supreme, Timothée Chalamet.
David Ehrlich is here?
Yeah.
Be nice, my mom is here.
No, he's a fan.
Be nice.
In fact, you're interviewing Josh and the composer later today, aren't you? Okay. Good luck, it's going to be great. It's great to see you. Listen, I know you are a Safdie's Brothers fan. Were you disappointed that Benny did not offer you the Dwayne Johnson role in this movie?
Disappointed but not surprised. But no, I'm an enormous fan of them both, and I think when Josh first approached me with this, whatever it was, 6-7 years ago, I think the idea was that they would do it together. And, no, enormous fan of them both, and also we were supposed to do a sort of bizarre fashion short film, Benny, Safdie, and Josh and I, that never materialized. But love Benny, would love to work with him too, you know.
Great. So when you're a fan of someone, I'm always intrigued by this. When an actor is a fan of a filmmaker, how do you make it known that you would be receptive to hearing from them? Did you cross paths with the Safdie?
It happened super organically, you know. One of my agents at UTA, formerly at WME, a woman named Danny Streisand, a fantastic agent, she told me that Good Time was coming out, and there was a screening in New York. This would have been between Call Me By Your Name debuting at Sundance and before it came out that November. So I went, you know, she said, this is a really New York movie, it's up your alley, there's a premiere tonight in New York, Robert Pattinson's the lead, you should go check it out. I went with my buddy Cody, and it was just a thrill, and we loved it, and it was sort of a bizarre New York after party, and Josh came up to Cody and I, and Cody said we were on acid, which was totally not true. It was a super bizarre thing to say to him, but in true to Josh's spirit, I think he, you know, I always say it's like the best compliment to be sought after by Josh in a cinematic sense, because it means you're appropriately dented enough to be in his worldview. I mean, you know, you're not too polished or something. So I met Josh there, and it was super organic, and then I kind of stalked him like all the great actors I've admired, you know, like Leo with Scorsese in the Aviator, you know, I was just like all over him to do something. So much so that Uncut Gems premiered at the Toronto Film Festival, and I was with the cast backstage, and Idina Menzel said to Josh, like, is he in the movie? Like, is there you know, I just hounded him, and there was a different project Josh was supposed to do between this and Uncut Gems, and it didn't materialize. I think it still might materialize, I'm not sure, but all of a sudden there was a gap, and my manager Brian and I, we were just all over Josh and Eli, the producer, and this, you know, we set a date, and the rest is history.
I love it. So how did you first get introduced to the character of Marty? Did Josh and kind of explain it to you in a meeting or a conversation, or did he give you the pieces of paper or the file and say, read this?
No, I think it was more description at first. You know, a lot of the dialogue was around the idea of the movie before I got any of the pages. And to this day, you know, Josh talks about Marty like an energy or something, and I really don't want to say that pretentiously at all. He's really like, we were at dinner the other night, and he goes, I love it when Marty does this, I love it when Marty does that. And, you know, yeah, like, you know, I mean, never want to say, you know, that's me playing but because he really sees it like in this almost like metaphysical sense. And so he always spoke in these contours of the character and of the movie. And, you know, this movie really gives me faith too, like in an age of AI and all this stuff. I'm not saying this to be a crowd pleaser in any sense, but if you just get a lot of elements that are quote unquote locked in and trying to do a good job, you know, Darius Kanji, the amazing cinematographer here, Jack Fisk, the production designer, you know, Gwyneth Paltrow, Jessica Tyler, the creator, you know, Ronnie, Eli Bush, and if everyone shows up on time and is prepared, you're gonna get a good thing, you know, so.
I mean, if ever a character could be described as energy, it's this character. So I think that makes total sense. Was that a guiding force for you, or is that something that's more being talked about now that it's done?
I think tonally it was a guiding force. I think it was, you know, Josh pretty quickly from the jump made sure the first shot that we did, it's very brief in the final cut, but it's when I'm in Paris and I'm walking down the street on the way to have lunch with Kevin O'Leary's character, and just the way I was walking, you know, Josh immediately came over and said, more swagger, you know, more audacity, like, you know, he said, oh, tap into that 13-year-old you, tap into that 13-year-old you, and which is so empowering. You know, usually, you know, the contours of prestigious filmmaking have it so that it's subtle and the pacing is slow and it's sophisticated and you're trying to understand why this is sophisticated and why you're supposed to like it, and that's why I'm so proud of this movie, because I feel like it has all the Jack Fiskness of it all, but equally, if you were only a Marvel fan, and if you said, okay, I'm gonna take a swing on watching an A24 movie or an indie movie, I would like to think this is really engaging, you know, and not some laborious affair.
What were some movies, you mentioned, you know, the kind of the Leo Scorsese thing, that's not really what you're talking about as far as thematically or tonally with this film, but what movies, if any, did you and Josh talk about that were particularly influential to you two on this?
Very few, honestly. You know, really The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary, was hugely inspiring to me, because I just thought, here's someone who doesn't take no for an answer, who doesn't have any concern for the you know, perception amongst foes and even allies, because he's locked in on his goal and is quite good at it. And I thought that was really Marty Mauser's MO. There were films and like people, you know, but the trouble is, as soon as you say something like it makes it seem like it was a goalpost, and it really wasn't, because I could say like Al Pacino and you know, his early films, but I think it was like a contour of everything, you know.
Yeah. How much input were you able to, wanting to, allowed to have as far as the look of Marty?
I mean, you know, Josh has a very specific worldview, and I think it was one of the positives of this production that I felt pushed outside of my box, and it's like, he's got like a Mad Magazine worldview, like, and so with you know, it was about 2 hours towards the end of the production when we got good at like an hour and a half of prosthetics and stuff every day, with the pock marks on the face and the unibrow, and Kira Pachenko was an amazing makeup designer, designed the look, and you know, he wanted my eyes beadier in the movie, so I ended up wearing -4, -6 contacts this is true, to fuck up my vision, and then I would put real glasses on top of it to correct my vision, and this is a real thing. And again, it's like coming from huge commercial projects and films. I imagine this was what it was like for Rob on Good Time, you know, and you're like, okay, should I not want to do this? I'm failing the test, you know, of Josh's worldview, and but that was a real thing, you know. In the first scene we shot with Kevin, I didn't have a rhythm with Josh yet. I didn't have the boldness to say, hey, can I take these out? So I got an eye infection like 2 days into filming, and then we kind of got a rhythm, which was to say, all right, if the coverage is going this way, I'm going to go with the contact supervisor and take him out, you know, and then we got a rhythm with it. But I don't know if that answered it.
It totally answered the question. When you have a task like this, where your job is to be this much energy and this frenetic every time the cameras are rolling, is it helpful for you as an actor to maintain that level of freneticness, freneticity, or is it like, I gotta really dial it back whenever he says cut so I can kind of preserve my energy?
That's a great question. I would say dial it back. I feel as my artistry grows, no matter how pretentious that sounds, I feel really like the kind of actor that treats the A to B as sacred, in the sense that to joke around before and to fall into it isn't really my style per se, nor is it to be so serious between each take. And you know, as method, as the kids would call it. So, so somewhere in between, certainly with the tenacity of this character, like I don't think I would have had the energy to do so otherwise. But I feel every role I've been lucky to play rubs off on me a little bit in real life after the fact. And between Bob Dylan last year and this year, what a glorious gift to have these two guys as worldview, as a compass. It's so not of the times. I say that affectionately. Yeah.
Do you look back now and feel grateful that you had however much time it was in the makeup chair to kind of zone out in a way, or to use your word, fruitionize this character? I mean, is that something that was helpful? Are you happy that that was part of the shoot day at the beginning?
Yeah, and increasingly it started with the Dylan project, where there's prosthetics on that, and then on this. I wrapped the part 3 of Dune a couple of days ago. There's also a level of prosthetics and stuff, and I love it. I cherish that in the morning. I cherish getting in the headspace I want, and reading the books or watching the films or journaling or whatever it is to really get in a zone. It's really important.
I was fascinated to learn just in the last day, you all might know this if you've read about this movie, that you had like ping pong tables with you on your movie sets for the last how many years?
Yeah, like 6 years, and also, that's just the truth, because I saw somebody said, oh, that's what he was saying for the Dylan thing, and this is just a bit, but I have the photographic evidence. Like I have, there's like Lori from Little Women, Timmy playing ping pong, and then there's Paul Atreides and all that, so I'm gonna put all that out, and you'll see, no, there's a level of, in fact, there's a large level of CGI in this, but, sports sequences are hard to replicate. Like the beautiful Michael Jordan ballet-esque, Balanchine-esque sequences you see of him are improvised by nature. It's very hard to do something. So some of these sequences are so choreographed. Josh made me feel better saying that greatest table tennis players in the world couldn't pre-sequence this, because like the Dylan movie, I go, now we got to do this for real, and then your day is gone because you're trying to get this very specific sequence. So. But I had Wei Lee and Diego Schloff, those were my ping pong coaches for 4 or 5 years. They're the go-to table tennis people in LA. They did Forrest Gump and Balls of Fury, and so this is what they do, And I just did I did an NBA commercial, it hasn't come out yet, but there's a table tennis element. And I called Josh in a panic. I said, we got to get Diego on this, because I'm very proud of the level of table tennis in this movie. I thought, oh, God forbid, this NBA commercial all of a sudden, people are like, this looks fake,
If you were to like walk into a bar now and there was a ping pong table, would you be like, oh God, hell no? Or would you actually want to play right now?
Oh man, good question. I will say like 3 weeks ago, finishing Dune in Abu Dhabi, and there was a security guard at the hotel that saw a friend and I playing, and he challenged us, and he was actually excellent and like really incredible. But it kind of got me in my Marty mode again, and like like aggressive and screaming. I got the videos on my phone. I thought, oh man, these can never leak, because it's like really not a great look. That I'm like playing this security guard, I'm screaming.
So on the set, I mean, yes, obviously there's some CGI, as you just said, but on the set, were you in between takes looking at playback? Did you want to be in on that and look at it and be like, I want to make sure this point or this rally looks as good as I imagine it's looking in my mind?
Yes and no. I mean, the experts are the experts. So, and also Iran, the amazing VFX guy, they're understanding angles in relation to the camera and stuff like that in a way that I wouldn't. And the challenge, the very like I don't even know how to put it, like architectural challenge of the points, I increasingly grew fond of, because I just thought how bizarre this is in a high-level movie to be this concerned with like the angle of the paddle and the rhythm of it, and that the ball will take longer from this thing. And there was a ton of stuff that we memorized that's not in the movie, that I would say to Josh sometimes, I'm like, is every point gonna be, because there's a lot, it's like 21 points sometimes, and then like what we shot in Japan, there was so much that we shot, and it's physically tiring, especially if your muscles aren't geared for it, you know.
Obviously, you don't have a point of reference for this because it's not like you've worked with both brothers at the same time on a movie, but was it weird at all that it was only one brother there? Or did you get a sense from Josh that it was weird for him? Obviously, they both made great movies, so they're doing just fine, but did it feel like a learning curve for anybody?
No, I gotta say no. I mean, the more I've been fortunate to work with like amazing directors, I'm considering that the gift of my 20s when I think about working with Denis and Greta and Luca and Josh, and I'm leaving a bunch of amazing people off that list. They are all as talented in their like dreamlike worldview they can bring to life as they are incredibly well supported. And I imagine many a great thinker, many a great director has misstepped in not even arrogance, just in bullishness and not be. I mean, like Josh, the way Denis, they are Greta. They're surrounded by. So in other words, you talk about a learning curve. I think Josh had his team, you know, and he had Eli Bush, and he had Katagis, the line producer, and Darius, who shot Uncut Gems, and Jack Fisk, and you know, so in other words, no.
I'd love to ask you about the two women that you act opposite. One, this incredible veteran performer, Gwyneth Paltrow, and then Odessa Zion, who I have to say I wasn't familiar with, who's amazing. I didn't know she was Pamela Adlon's daughter. Like, there's so much about her that I had no idea about. What was it like to kind of toggle back and forth between these two energies, Gwyneth's energy and Odessa's?
They were both excellent, and that goes for the entire cast, but I agree it was two different energies, and Gwyneth was, you know, heartbreaking in this movie and profound. I thought it made it even more profound that she stepped out of retirement in a sense to do it. And then Odessa was a totally different, wild kind of energy. The amazing thing with Odessa is I had the impression that she was giving this amazing performance and wasn't aware of it, and that's not in any sort of like insecure way, because she's definitely a very self-assured person and a confident performer. But we'd do takes and I would go, wow, this is incredible. And it's almost like a pitcher throwing a perfect game or something. You don't want to go near them, so I didn't want to say anything to her in regards to that. But you know, and she's like the perfect Rachel, and you just can't imagine anybody else doing it. And same goes for Gwyneth. And Gwyneth, it felt like so effortlessly talented. Sometimes I work with these actors who've been successful a long time, and I feel like I have the moment that a casting director would have had the first time they see them, which is to say, oh wow, this person's really good. Like they really got something. Like, and I felt like that with Gwyneth, you know. And obviously, Shakespeare in Love and her own body of work, that's amazing. But you know, she'll do something. It's like, oh wow, that was fucking good, you know. And yeah.
And then you have all these other fascinating people in the cast, some of whom are well known for doing other things, like Abel Ferrara directing movies, or Kevin isn't he from Shark Tank?
Yeah, okay.
And then you have people who I would imagine are just like non-professional, because that's what this casting director is really good at, kind of street casting kind of things. What was that like on the days where you were working with people who didn't have nearly the amount of experience of you or Gwyneth or anybody?
Yeah, it was sort of thrilling. You know, I'm really one of these folks that's always believed that acting is sort of like a representation of the world. Again, no matter how pretentious that sounds. So it almost feels like another test, which is to say, can you hang with someone who's bringing such an authentic energy and a real energy that it's not coming through any filter? It's actually just how they are. And are you going to shy away from that? Are you going to be scared of that? Or are you not going to know how to yes and? And I loved it. You know, and that energy was so authentic. I think it makes the movie. Also, it helps someone, this is like maybe getting a little too self-referential to say this, but like it helps someone like myself that's been in, you know, large-scale movies in a sense, like Dune and Wonka. All of a sudden, you have this collage of faces, and I think as an audience, you go, oh, okay, this is like a different thing, you know? And it's really not, I don't know why, you know, Josh will do a brilliant thing, and you go, wow, more people do this in a sense, because it just helps the worldview. You go, wow, like, and this is such a New York feeling movie. You know, my uncle sent me the name of an artist, I'm forgetting now, Richard something, I'll find it after, who did these cartoons in the 60s or 70s of New York faces, and it's really like this movie. the faces are extraordinary, and that's Josh is a Queens kid, you know, and again, it goes back to that thing of like not being dented and, being dented enough to be in his worldview.
Okay, I've got time for a couple more questions. One thing I really like about you, you're gonna be like, oh God. I like your confidence. I like your self-belief. Because you're such a polite young man, you often apologize for it and say, oh, I don't want to sound the wrong way or whatever. But I like that about you. When it comes to playing a character like Marty, who the confidence is just right at the forefront, do you think it helps to be a confident actor playing a confident part? Or is there not a necessary correlation between those two?
No, absolutely. Yeah, if anything, this felt like the empowerment of that, and it's challenging to have that worldview for a lot of reasons, but it's just challenging, just for a lot of reasons. So the character, like I said before, I feel like everything I've been lucky to play bleeds into my real life, and the real life bleeds into the character, and vice versa. But this was like, that's what was so thrilling with Josh. I almost feel like emotional time about it. He was like, all right, this, whatever would make someone want to hire you for a fashion campaign or a perfume campaign, fuck that. That's not what I'm interested in. This other thing that I saw when we hung out when I was 22 years old, or the Knicks fan, or the the stuff you found on me on YouTube when I was like 13, it's like, that's what I want to tell you. And that was just awesome, it's like a total dream, and also really clarifying, like putting my soul through a strainer or something, and like all the bullshit, being strained,
Okay, this is a random question that just popped into my head. I hope this doesn't seem offensive. Do you think Marty is delusional?
No, because you think of the greatest thinkers and the greatest athletes or whatever. Actually, I would say sports is different because it's so not subjective. So if you're really great at something, it's clear to you that you're great at something. But no, the greatest thing, you gotta be delusional. It's one of the things I observed, like when I would go to France growing up. I was talking about this with Greg Fraser, the cinematographer of Dune, where he said to me, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but he said like he had to stop shooting movies in Australia in a sense because there's tall poppy syndrome, he called it, where he said everybody in Australia wants all the poppies to grow the same. By the way, love Australia. I want to go there, I want the movies to do well. That's what Greg said, that's not what I said. And I felt like that would have been France growing up too, and whatever you want to say, American dream, the myth of the American dream, the statistical fallacy of the American dream, all that stuff. At least for me, growing up in New York, going to LaGuardia, as a LaGuardia house, and I think this movie's really representative of that, and also the capitalist unfairness of it, that Kevin O'Leary's character is this domineering business bourgeois hand on the working class aspirational Marty that's caught between all these forces out of his control.
All right, two last things. Maybe like my favorite thing about this movie when I saw it was the 80s music that permeates it, like Peter Gabriel and Touch and New Order and Tears for Fears and Porgies. Everybody's Got to Learn Sometime. My head was like, as an 80s new wave fan. Were you super into that music, someone like me, or did you learn about some of that stuff through Josh and his
Both.
choice?
I mean, some of the big, like Forever Young, obviously that's something that's just an earworm and you just grow up with, but some of these other ones, like, Tears for Fears, I can't say, but that's Josh's thing. I like that he didn't flinch. It was like, we're gonna make a 50s movie with 80s music.
Okay, last thing. So finish this sentence. Of all the movies I've made, Marty Supreme is the experience on Marty Supreme was the most...
The experience, not the film, the experience, this is like a cop-out answer, but the most New York, it was the most New York, I love this city, and I wouldn't be who I am without New York. It's the most beautiful place in the world, and
It's so nice to see you, great to talk to you. Timothée Chalamet, everyone.